Beloved brothers and sisters, today I want to throw light on a very important topic because this topic is so confusing to people. And the topic is the occult or occultism. It's one of the topics that have confusion, misunderstanding. People misunderstand the meaning of the occult. Now, what is occultism or the occult? When something has magical results, magical powers, so-called, something that beats reasoning. You cannot understand by reasoning it. Something that science cannot explain. Why? And this falls in the category of magic. And therefore, it is something very obscure, hidden, secret, confidential, how these things happen. But I will throw light on it, let you understand, so that the confusion is no more. Yes. First, to understand is that there is only one source of power, and that is what generally the word God is used for. Only one source. That is the self. From that source, everything comes. Now, things which proceed from that source become step down. That means it has no equal power to the source. I've always given you the example of electricity. The source, the generator, then the high tension wire coming from the source, then the smaller wires through the transformer. And it goes on and on until we are able to utilize it for giving light, giving heat, giving sound, and so on. So this one source, this one generator, when energy flows from there into the step-down situation, it is still very powerful, just like the high tension. But when we use the transformer, we can still reduce it. So in the manifest world and the unmanifest world, we have the unmanifest world first. That is where the high tension, that is where the first power flow from the source comes. And then from that stage, the power reduces further into what is manifest and we are seeing. And we move about within it. Beloved brothers and sisters, when power is tapped from the generator initially, when it comes, what it does always beats reasoning. It is very powerful. And science cannot even understand it or explain it. Then, from that level, the second tapping of energy or power is from the first zone or the high tension. Then that is also tapped, and then it is utilized, and it gives results that are magical, just like the first state. But always there is difference. One is higher and one is lower, because the second tapping is tapped from that which tapped first from the source. So the first tapping from the source is higher magic. Now when you tap from that which has come from the source, it becomes second tapping. So it is lower magical power. So in actual fact, we have higher occultism, lower occultism. I'll give you examples and you understand. When Pharaoh's magicians, Pharaoh's occultists, when they produced, they manifested the serpents. That is lower occultism, because they were tapping from the things within the realm which have already tapped from source. So it's secondly tapping. So it is lower occultism. And here comes Moses tapping from source straight and changes the stick into a serpent. And this is the demonstration that when you tap from source, it is a higher occultism. It is also magical. It is also occult. But it is direct tapping from source. So it is higher occultism. And that serpent from Moses swallowed all the other serpents, because the Pharaoh's men, occultists, they were not tapping from source. They were tapping from the zone in which things have been tapped from source. So it is secondly tapping. You see, this is not a new thing. It happened in the past, it is happening now, and it will happen in the future. Let me give you another example. The prophets of Baal, they were powerful, but the magical powers they were using were lower magic because they were worshipping lesser gods. Lesser gods, they are also beings which were produced from source, but then those worshippers of those gods have no way to tap from source. They tap from these beings. They tap from things that exist within the, let me use the word, the manifest world, the created world. So they tap from inside it. And here comes Elijah, and Elijah was tapping from source. It is all magic, but we have higher magic, lower magic. So, lower magic taps from within the created realm, and higher magic taps from outside it, the source which brought the creation. And when it is like that, always tapping from the source is superior. So that is superior magic. That is superior occultism. Always, every generation, every period in time, there are people tapping from within the zone, within the created world, and they utilize it for making headway in their lives. You see, the situation is this. When humans appear beyond animals, initially they are not too much departed from animal nature. Therefore, they were not ready. They were not on a level to tap from source. So because of that, they tap from within the zone. They tap whatever will help them from within the zone, within the created realm. And we can't say it's their fault. They were not developed to the point they could tap from source. It is evolution. And sometimes someone is brought among them by design within the drama so that that person taps from source. And it is that person that will try to enlighten them to do away with or to stop tapping from within the creation so that they learn how to tap from source. And in this way, for them to change from lower occultism to higher occultism. But then, we're supposed to grow so that we don't remain in lower occultism. We evolve to the point where we can tap from higher, from the source. And in so doing, we actually get the fulfillment. We attain realization, union with the source, realizing who we are, like that. So here comes Baal's prophets, and they did everything to invoke fire. It's not like they couldn't do it. They have been doing it several times. They were tapping and the magical powers were in display. But, beloved brother and sister, when someone is tapping from the source and is in the presence of people tapping from within the zone, it is secondary tapping that they are doing, and they become powerless in front of the one tapping from source. That is it. When someone changes water into wine, it is also magic, but it's higher magic, because he was tapping from source. If I say source, that is what people like to call God. But you link to that through your very self. From your very self, that is where the connection is. And when one knows how to tap from source, sometimes that can also be misunderstood, because it looks like the same as the others are tapping from within the zone. That is why at a point there were those listening to the cries, they went around saying, it is the demons he's using to do all these things. That means he's tapping from around just like everyone. No. No. When the Baal's priests or prophets, they did whatever, they couldn't bring the fire, because they were doing it in front of somebody tapping from source. So they became powerless in front of a person tapping from source. Source is everything. So it's a big lesson. Every generation, people who do not know how to tap from source absorb themselves tapping from around them, entities, beings, energies around, energies from plants, energies from animals, energies from blood, and utilize it to bring about magical effects, demonstration of magical powers. But when they will succeed, yes, but in front of one who taps from source, theirs become nothing. It is just like the moon shines, but it is secondary light. The first light is from the sun, and the moon taps from the sun and reflects it onto us. So whenever the moon is in the sky and the sun itself appears, what happens? The moon just mixes out. It's like non-existent. It's not seen. It's covered. It's overwhelmed. So, just as Moses did, and the magical power, the occult power from Moses was very different. It was higher. So those serpents from Pharaoh's men were all just absorbed. Likewise. Now, Elijah asked them to even put water on the firewood. whatever has been set there. And then it taps from source. And that is higher occultism. And the fire just occurred. Beloved brothers and sisters, we are not to misuse the word occult. There is one other aspect of that. The intention of the one tapping the energies. Just like you are tapping electricity, for what purpose? Now, if your intention is to produce heat and utilize it to, let's say, burn something, to destroy. Yes, it can be used to destroy. At the same time, it can be used for good. So also we can say there is negative occultism and positive occultism. Most of the time, the higher occultism that is tapped from the source is for good. Why? Because if you can rise to the point where you can tap, it means you have left the base nature, the lower nature, and you are in higher frequencies where there is love, there is peace, there is joy. And from there you can tap from source. So for that matter, you are already in good state, benefiting all the people who become beneficiaries of that power flow. So when the water was changed to wine, it was for the benefit of the people seated. And the one tapping had no selfish interest. It was on a level, it was doing pure service. It's not like the Christ wanted to drink wine and therefore he was changing the water to wine so that he can enjoy it. No. Service to people. There's no selfishness in higher typing. So, the same applied to the functions that Moses was doing. It was meant for the people's benefit, to liberate the people, to help the people. But most of the time, lower occultism is connected with a lot of negativities. Because it is secondly tapping, it is lower. It is deficient of high values. So there is hatred inside it, there is enviousness inside it, selfishness inside it. It is done for one's benefit only. And even if it is against the interest of somebody else, one doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter for one. One doesn't care. And lower occultism, tapping from the energies around, will require things like blood, because blood carries life force. The life force came from source, but now it is within the created world. Then you tap it, so it is secondary tapping. The first tapping, things come from source. So when you manipulate those things, you tap from those things. that kind of occultism is mostly connected to a lot of negativity, what people call evil, because it's so selfish. And even if you get that from a source where somebody has to suffer at the end of it, one doesn't care. They kill to have the blood because the blood carries very high life force. And you tap it to utilize it for magical results. Beloved brothers and sisters, this is negative practice. But tapping from source is positive practice. The intentions are mostly negative in the lower occultism. Even if one taps from high, one rose, or one will have to rise to the point where you are freed of selfishness. Then you can tap from source. When you are having all these misgivings, hatred, anger, and all those kind of things, you can't tap from source. There is something that happens when Elijah was in that good state and he tapped from source and the fire came out. After that, he developed some pride. Beloved brothers and sisters, watch out. He was in a good state. That is why the tapping happened. But after that, he developed some pride because he made comparison of himself and the Baal's priests and prophets who failed terribly. And because of that pride, he decided to destroy them, to kill them. So he asked for them to be lined up, and he had a machete to cut each one's head. He killed the prophets of Baal, the priests of Baal. He cut their heads. Beloved brothers and sisters, this realm is functioning according to justice, according to laws. He was not supposed to do that. He descended from the pure level he was on that allowed him to tap from source. And pride entered and he wanted to destroy these people. So he cut their heads. And what happened after that? You see, he was on such a level he could enter into self-realization at any moment. That means full realization at any moment. Was such a qualified soul to do that. So at the point of leaving this world, he actually was on such frequency that he entered into that oneness with divinity. But the justice, he was not supposed to cut their heads. It came out of pride. So there was a plan. The universe functions this way. So he had to come back as John the Baptist so that his own head will also be cut. And this is the law. After it is cut, then he has total liberation. Because the law is the law. He was sort of at the point of liberation, but he had to be returned to complete. There was one thing left. And that one thing was that he cut people's heads. So he had to come and experience how cutting of head is like. And at the end of his life, his head was cut. In actual fact, there are a lot of things to learn from these things. So, in the first place, unless you actually raise your spiritual frequency to a certain level, it is not possible to tap from source. And that is why people want magical powers and they can't have the means to tap from source. Therefore, they move around to tap from within the zone, within the box. They can't tap outside the box, where the source of everything has come. They tap from within the box. So anywhere they can have some energy, some power, some force, they tap it and utilize it. And they connect with entities through covenants so that they can have constant energy flow, power flow, and then magical things happening for them. Beloved, I'm getting you to understand what is really happening. And therefore, we need to change from tapping from within to tapping from source. That is higher. You see, a plant starts from seed, grows until it bears fruit. Humans start from very low level where we tap from around us and so-called gods and the water spirits and the mountain spirits and this and that and all the things around us and the power of the tree and the plants, you know, everywhere. From within the earth, from all around us, we tap. It's because we haven't reached where we can tap from source. Those things have come from source, and we are tapping from them. So that is secondary power. Like I said, we are not to blame. They don't have access. They don't know how to tap from source. What to do, they don't know. And they go through all this. But when there is a way, when knowledge, guidance is there to tap from source, why continue tapping from around? And time is coming very soon that there will be sort of confrontation. Higher typing versus lower typing. That they are tapping around and the higher comes in. And the confrontation, they fizzle out. Baals, prophets, they fizzle out. Yes, the smaller those serpents of Pharaoh, they will be all taken out. So, beloved brothers and sisters, don't let us continue misusing the word occult. Only there is lower occult and higher occult. Negative occult, positive occult. Yes. And By and by, I will explain more, I will explain deeper, and you will understand. Change your views. The lower occult, they are harmful. Harmful to the one tapping and harmful to those around. Higher occult is beneficial. It connects more the one who is tapping, connects more to the inner realization. And the people he's tapping it for, they also are lifted. They are also they get lifted. So see the difference. Beloved brothers and sisters, we need to watch out because the lower occultism is all over. And there is one thing that will let you see the difference between lower occultism and higher occultism. The fact is that in the case of lower occultism, they go through a lot of rituals and difficult things for something to happen. But there is a saying that the higher you go, the cooler it becomes. So higher things are cool. See, Elijah didn't go through so much, but the prophets of Baal, the priests of Baal, they went through a lot, just so that something small can happen, but it didn't even happen. They even went to the extent of cutting themselves for blood to flow, so that it's like an offering to the gods. You see, when you offer something to somebody, then you make the person owe you, so that the person has to also do something for you. So they offer blood, they offer all kinds of things, so that their gods will owe them. And then their gods will be obliged, will be forced to do something for them. You see, in the lower occultism, sometimes people are conjuring and invoking, and they go through so much long prayers. And they will prepare the ground and do so many things, so many do's and don'ts. They have to obey. And always lower things are very tough, very difficult things, very challenging things. Higher things, cool. Elijah had to say just a few words and fire came. And let's look at the Christ. He simply had to think of Moses, and Moses appeared. He simply had to think of Elijah, and Elijah appeared. That is higher occultism. You know, the transfiguration of the Christ. And when people want some entities to appear, see what they go through. Most of the time, they spend a lot of time going through austerities, practicing this, practicing that to be able to do it. And they have to say long incantations, conjuration words, invoking words, and a whole lot before some entity will be seen. And these are the lower side of the occultism. So when Christ had Moses and Elijah appearing, he didn't even speak words. He didn't draw circles. He didn't design things there. He didn't arrange anything. And I mean, it's just simple, because when you are tapping from the source is the source, and is the source of everything. So there is no difficulty like this. Beloved brothers and sisters, I've told you the beginning of religion is the rituals. So people do it. It was done a lot in the past. Almost every culture began with rituals. And when we begin something like that, it's not meant to be with us throughout. That is the problem. We need to grow. From the ritualistic state comes the worship state. And that is why the worship is now so dominant also. Even though the rituals are even mixed with the worship. It's amazing. But they have to go beyond both and realize the self, realize the source, realize the one you are calling upon, calling God. You see, in rituals, the aim is not God. Most of the rituals, the aim is the smaller gods, because that is those in the created realm. Secondary powers, whilst the main source is there. So we need to grow, get to the point where we are able to actually realize the source, the self within. The reason why it is so difficult for the lower occultists to actually connect is because everyone is looking outward for the connection, but the connection is inward. And they miss it. So it can take years upon years, generations upon generations, and they remain with the ritualistic and tapping energies from within the creation, but not from the creator, because they cannot assess the creator in an external way. The creator is assessed inwardly. And one has to know how. And once that is done, then everything moves from that level. Beloved brothers and sisters, time is up. We need to attain the goal. And that is where there is fulfillment. All the other things don't fulfill anything. Whenever we practice the lower occultism, because it is happening within the created realm, and the created realm, everything that manifests has its opposite. So if it is something good that you are taking from within the universe, within the created realm, the opposite is just attached to it. If you take a coin, it has two sides. So you like one side, then you let it face you and look at it. But that doesn't mean the other side is not there. So whatever you take from within the created realm, it falls within things and their opposites. So lower occultists are always in trouble. They are in trouble because whatever they achieve from that occultism, something is hanging behind it that will haunt them, that will face them later. It bounces back on them. See? So this is to enlighten you so that you don't chase after such things where selfish gains bring about so much ritual in which people have to be killed, animals have to be killed, so many things have to be done. Yes, the energies harnessed from these things will let magical powers and things come into play. But people are ignorant in so doing because all those things have their opposites waiting to also happen. Beyond the created realm, there are no opposites, as I've always told you. So there, when one is tapping from there, it is all good, 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 good. Nothing bad inside. Yes, because even for you to be able to tap from that source, you have to be above the opposites. You come to the neutral point within yourself, and there are no opposites there, and that is when you can access the source. And once you access the source, that is a different type of power flow. And whatever you achieve from that, there are no opposites. Nothing will haunt you. Nothing will face you later. Nothing will bring you down. Beloved, this is the message I want you to have today. Don't be confused about the terminologies, occult, occult, occult. It's just because everywhere it is lower occult. The word occult, as I explained in the beginning, means something connected with magical powers. And what is magical power? Something that beats reasoning. You can't reason it out. And even science cannot also solve it. Take, for example, Christ walking on water. How do you explain it? Because usually the human is heavier than the water, so you go in. So it beats reasoning. So by the definition that magical power means things that cannot be explained, then it is magical power. It is occult. Means it's confidential, it's secret, it's something people cannot understand. But when one is in tune with the source, what flows from there is not to be equated to what people are practicing or what they are doing as occultism. So the confusion is because people didn't know that there is lower and higher. Everything in the material situation has opposites. Yes, so that is it. So nobody can have evil intentions and be able to tap from source. It is impossible. Source doesn't become accessible when you have evil intentions. But lower here, selfish intentions, whatever intentions, we sometimes through hatred, enviousness, and so on, then we apply this lower occultism. So that is it. It won't help you. Time is up to leave these things. Place them aside. To conclude this topic of occultism, I will let you understand also that even higher occultism is just a step below self-realization. You see, lower occultism, higher occultism are functioning within the created realm. Self-realization is actually experiencing your reality original, and that is beyond the created realm. In fact, the created realm is a small spot inside the real self, which we refer to as God. And to realize that is a higher thing even than the display of powers within the created realm. Even though the higher occultism is proceeding from the Great Spirit, it is a step below the self-realization. So ultimately, what we are here for is to give direction so that people will actually focus on self-realization as the ultimate, as the highest thing. You see, let us look at it this way. The lower occultism can be looked at like just $1, and higher occultism as, let's say, 1 billion. Then self-realization is the giver. You see? So the giving is happening in the created realm, and the giver of this, of course, is not to be counted among all these kind of things. So, like we say, the creator and the created. The higher occultism is tapping from the creator to manifest things. And the lower occultist is tapping from things which have already been tapped from the source. Then it taps from it, so it's secondly tapping. But the source itself, when you realize that source, there is nothing greater than that. Yes. So something is higher than even the higher occultism. And this is to your knowledge today. Beloved, brothers and sisters. We may recommend that people move away from lower occultism to higher occultism, but it is part of the stages of growth, evolution. But the evolution will have to end in self-realization. And once that is done, all the powers flow from that source of self-realization. So, whether higher occultism, lower occultism, they are all sourced. And ultimately, they are all from a greater self. So, this is to your knowledge today. Thank you, beloved brothers and sisters.